Among all the websites the U.S. government runs, there's one dedicated entirely to UFOs. This isn't some conspiracy site. It's a real government site, run by the Department of Defense itself. On it, military footage, eyewitness statements, even sketches drawn by the FBI. But here's the thing. Do you know how long that site has been up? It launched in 2026. It's not even a year old. For decades, the U.S. government said there was nothing to see. So why did they suddenly start releasing files, and what's actually in them? Today, the UFO files the U.S. government released itself, and the 3 cases nobody can explain. February 2026. A podcast. Former President Barack Obama was the guest. Near the end of the interview, they hit a rapid-fire question round. The host asks, "Are aliens real?" Obama answers, "They're real, but I haven't seen them." Then he adds, "They're not at Area 51. There's no underground facility. Unless there's some enormous conspiracy that was hidden even from the President of the United States." And the internet lost its mind. Did a former president just confirm aliens exist? Or was that a joke? Within a day, Obama posted a clarification himself. The universe is vast, so the odds of life existing somewhere are good. But the distances between star systems are so enormous that the chances they visited us are low. And during his presidency, he saw no evidence of any contact. But the fire was already lit. 5 days later, the White House moved. Citing overwhelming public interest, an order came down. Identify and release the government's files on UFOs and extraterrestrial life. That order is what created the official site. And so far, files have been released in 5 separate batches. So, what's actually in them? Let's start at number 3. Number 3 happened in September 2023. One day, a bright light appeared in the sky, and out of that light, something emerged. Here's how the witnesses described it. An ellipsoid object, bronze, metallic. The size is the problem. Between 130 and 195 feet long. That's about half a football field. Something that size, silent, just appearing out of a light. And moments later, it was gone. Not flown away, gone. Vanished on the spot, instantly. Now, a fair question comes up here. Stories like this are all over the internet, right? But this one is different. There wasn't just one witness. Multiple people reported it separately, and their accounts lined up. The size, the color, how it appeared, how it disappeared. And then the FBI got involved. The FBI took those witness statements and rendered the object directly onto an actual photo of the site. A reconstruction, essentially. Hold on. Doesn't that strike you as odd? Why would the FBI bother drawing this? Because that's what the FBI does when it takes a case seriously. Visualizing witness testimony and preserving it as a record. Which means, at minimum, the FBI didn't treat these reports as nonsense. So what was it? Let's eliminate the obvious candidates one by one. A plane? Planes don't materialize out of light. They take off from runways. They're logged by control towers. They leave a flight path on radar. A drone. There's no such thing as a 195-foot drone. That's the size of a regional airliner. A weather balloon. Balloons can't vanish instantly. They drift slowly with the wind. Then maybe it was an optical illusion or a reflection. But for that, the descriptions were too specific and too consistent between people who reported separately. Cross off every candidate, and what's left? Nothing. That's what unidentified actually means. It's not a fancy government euphemism. It means nobody found an answer. That rendering is on the official government site right now. Anyone can look at it. But here's one more strange thing. When the government released this case, they never said where it happened. They labeled the image an actual site photo, but the site itself not disclosed. Now the other FBI documents released alongside it offer a hint. Somewhere in the northeastern United States, a sparsely populated, quiet area. Similar sightings have been reported in that same general area, repeatedly. The FBI had even given those cases internal names: triangle orbs, red orb rotation, orbs over the pond. One report filed in July 2025 notes that the sighting occurred within 25 miles of those earlier cases. So this isn't a one-off. Something keeps getting seen in the same neighborhood. Why that area specifically, the government never explained. And that's where it ends. What the object was, where it came from, where it went, no explanation. Just unidentified. One word and nothing more. Number 2 is heavier. The setting: a U.S. congressional hearing room. September 2025. A House Oversight Subcommittee held a hearing on UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, the official term the government now uses instead of UFO. In the witness chairs, former military personnel and whistleblowers. The subcommittee chair opened by saying this wasn't science fiction. This was about national security, about government accountability, about the public's right to know. Then, during the hearing, they played a video. On screen, a spherical object, hovering. A missile comes in. Direct hit, but it doesn't detonate. The missile just bounces off. For a moment, the hearing room went quiet. Here's why that's so unsettling. This isn't somebody saw something strange. This means a weapon built by human beings didn't work on that object. Up to now, most UFO stories were about speed or impossible turns. This is different. This is a record of us attempting to intercept something and failing. You've seen this scene in movies. Fighter jets unloading missiles and the unidentified object just sitting there without a scratch. Everything humanity has, useless. Everyone just staring up at the sky. Except this wasn't on a movie screen. This was playing on a screen in the United States Congress. There's another number that came out of that hearing. In 2023 alone, the Department of Defense received more than 700 UAP reports. And that's just formal reports, filed by pilots, service members, radar operators. So how many of those 700 got explained? A lot of them were resolved. Balloons, drones, birds, optical effects. But some were never explained at all. And one more thing came up at that hearing. The government holds dozens more UAP videos that have never been released. The subcommittee chair demanded all of them. The Pentagon's answer: some are classified. They can't be released, and that creates a strange situation. On one hand, the government says there's no evidence of anything extraterrestrial. On the other hand, it says that footage is classified and can't be shown. If there's nothing there, why is it classified? Now, there is a reasonable explanation. The issue may not be the footage itself, but the equipment that captured it. If you reveal exactly what a sensor can detect and at what range, that's a genuine military secret. Still, from the public side, it's frustrating. You're being asked to accept a conclusion without being given the evidence. So what the government has acknowledged stops right here. Some things can't be explained. What they are, we still don't know. Number 1. And this one is recent, July 2026. As of the moment you're watching this, it's the most recent case on the list. We're talking a matter of weeks ago. The location, off the coast of Virginia, near a U.S. military installation. The Navy detected something. Not one thing. Around 100. Some airborne, some on the water. Roughly 100 unidentified objects moving together at the same time. It's written up in the annual report from the Pentagon's UAP office. A 14-page document. So why does this take the top spot? Because until now, most UFO sightings were one or two objects. A dot moving fast, a light in the sky. 100 of them moving as a group is a completely different conversation. And it happened near a military installation. So what were they? You might think drones. And honestly, that's possible. But if it was drones, that's arguably worse. Because then the question becomes, whose drones? It would mean somebody can put a 100-unit drone formation off the coast of a U.S. military base. And the location itself, off Virginia, isn't a throwaway detail. This region is the heart of the U.S. Navy. The largest naval base in the world is there. Aircraft carriers move in and out of that water constantly, which means it's one of the most heavily monitored stretches of ocean in the country. Radar, satellites, patrol aircraft, detection systems on the ships themselves. And in that environment, they tracked 100 objects moving in formation and still couldn't identify them. It's not that the surveillance wasn't there. The surveillance was all there, and it still wasn't enough. The UAP office has not resolved this case. The report says, in effect, that a lack of timely sensor data continues to limit their ability to resolve cases like this. The government put it in writing. We couldn't figure it out. It happened in July 2026, and it's still unresolved today. So, to sum up, of the 3 cases here, this one is the most recent, by far the largest in scale and the least explained. That's why it's number 1. At this point, you're probably thinking, if the government is releasing all this, there must be something to it, right? Here's the twist. The Pentagon's official position hasn't changed at all. No recovered extraterrestrial technology. No confirmed extraterrestrial life. They keep releasing files, and they keep denying the conclusion. Now, there are people who dispute that. In 2023, a former military intelligence officer testified before Congress. He claimed the government runs a secret program that recovers and reverse engineers crashed craft, and that it holds non-human biological material. But let's be clear about something. That is testimony. No physical evidence has ever been made public. The Pentagon formally denied the claim. So here's where things actually stand. The government acknowledges that objects exist which it cannot explain. It has published documents and video to that effect. What it does not acknowledge is that any of it came from somewhere else. And the gap between those two positions, nobody has filled it yet. UFO files, released by the U.S. government itself. Is today's story fact or fiction? The government opened the files, and inside them were cases that genuinely can't be explained. But the same government says there's no evidence of anything extraterrestrial. Both of those statements came from the government. So which one do you believe? Fact or fiction?